Welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We're here to raise your confidence and inspire your creativity. Each episode, we will have a different guest who will be discussing our Raise word. The Raise word is a word that will encourage you or empower you and at times inspire you to explore the word a little more for yourself. Well, hello and welcome to the Raise podcast bonus edition. This week it is Mental Health Awareness Week, and as you know, we are all about raising confidence and inspiring creativity specifically to help you to maintain good mental health. I did a video a little while ago on Facebook, but I did it on a Facebook Live, and it meant that it couldn't really be shared and it was difficult to keep. So I thought I would just do something on here so that you could keep it and listen to it, and hopefully it's going to help you. As you know by now, if you follow the Raise podcast, I have long COVID, which is a chronic illness. I got COVID in March 2020, and here we are 3 years later, having had COVID 3 times. It's developed into chronic fatigue, numerous amounts of different ailments and balance issues and all kinds of fun things, which I won't go into now. However, what I have found is that it is incredibly important to put myself first. This hasn't been easy, and I'm very much hoping that our next podcast episode is going to be about self, and we'll look at self in greater detail. But what I want to talk about today is reserves. And I want to talk about energy reserves. When you have a chronic illness, often you're called a spoonie. I don't know if you've heard that term. A spoonie is somebody that has, they say they've got a certain amount of spoons of energy that get them through the day. The theory is a great one. Forgive me for not knowing offhand who it is from, but it has been a worldwide known theory, and the idea is that you have 10 spoons in the morning, and little by little those spoons kind of get used up in various ways. But spoons just don't work for me. I just can't get my head around spoons, and that's fine. And so I said to my husband, well, there must be something else. I've got to be able to think about my energy in terms of a tangible way. And he said about maybe a phone battery. And I thought, well, that's quite a good idea. You know, if you take a video, then it uses up a lot more storage than if you maybe just have a quick message with somebody. But still, it wasn't quite resonating with me the way that I needed to. And then I started working with Dr. Rebecca Dinsdale. And we talked about energy in terms of money. And suddenly, the penny finally dropped. Pun intended. And I realised that my reserves were like having £100. So I would start the day with £100. And if I was sensible and careful, I could pay out a certain amount, and it would mean that I was managing what I had, like you would if you had £100 budget. However, if milk got spilt, if my son struggled to get to school, even something like the top on the jam jar wasn't coming off, suddenly it was like I'd been mugged. Every single pound of that £100 suddenly disappeared before my eyes. Now, what do you do when you suddenly lose all your money? You can't just do nothing. And so what you do is you start to borrow. You might borrow from a friend. You might borrow from the bank. Maybe you go into an overdraft. So I realised that sometimes I would go into an overdraft. And this was when I knew that I was literally running on empty. I had nothing left. And yet I was still going. So it was like I had an overdraft. The energy wasn't really mine. But as a mum, as a parent, as a wife, etc., you have to keep going, don't you? So I used my overdraft. And what that meant was that I then had to give something back. It meant that I paid a little bit the next day. What happened next was I realised that if I got mugged and it was really bad and I had nowhere else to turn, then I would do what Rebecca and I term as loan shark living. And what happens when you go to a loan shark? More often than not, if you don't pay the money back in the right amount of time, you get beaten up. Or they take everything from you at least. And this is what was happening. I was losing all my energy, had nothing left, and for weeks afterwards, I then felt beaten up or like I had had everything taken away from me. Now, obviously, there are ways to put money back into the bank. You do have to work for it, and so the analogy falls down slightly here, but go with me. Money back for me is someone that says, I'll go to this place with you. I'll drive you there. We'll go for a coffee. You tell me how long you can manage and then we'll go straight home. That for me is £100 straight into the bank. No expectation, a lovely break, a little bit of love and no energy having to be spent because they're driving me there, driving me back. That kind of thing is £100. Sometimes I'm given thousands of pounds by someone that says, I know that you're ill. I know that even after 3 years, you're still ill. I'm still listening to you. I'm still here for you. Of course, we don't have to do that today. That can be thousands of pounds for me, really filling up my bank account again and giving me what I need. And obviously, this is in terms of mental reserves. Physical reserves for someone with chronic illness is difficult. I have to say that a good long sleep doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to have everything that I need in the bank to continue. However, it does help. There are times actually where sleeping makes me feel worse when I've woken up, as I'm sure any of you with chronic illness or small children or just a very busy life will understand. But there are ways to bring that kind of money back around, to put that income back in again. Now, I'm talking to you from a chronic illness point of view. And some of you, sadly, will be dealing with chronic illness. Some of you will be dealing with terminal illness. Some of you won't. And yet, your reserves are just as important as mine. You are doing just as important and incredible things as other people that have very, very high energy lives. And so what I'm saying to you today is, do you protect your reserves? Do you look after that £100 in the morning? Is your mental energy as important to you as your physical energy? Do you give out more than you get back? Because if you do, you're about to go into an overdraft. And if you continue to give out without getting anything back, you're going to get into loan shark living. And that is a dangerous place to be. So I want you just to think about that today. How can you get some of those reserves back? What do you need? I'm not going to sit here and tell you, and so you need to do this and this and this, because I'm not you. You know what you need. So what is it? Do you need support? Do you need a new job? Do you need understanding? Do you need space? Can you get it? If you can't get it straight away, can you tell someone that you need it? Can you plan to get it? I just want you to have a think about that today, because you are important. And if you are giving out more than you're getting back, then you are not going to be able to live as the true you that you can be. I'm going to go now. I said it was a bonus episode, so it's just a mini one. But I really hope that this helps. I hope that it will make you think about how important you are. And if you need support with those reserves, then do get in touch with me on the Raise Community Facebook group, or you could get in touch with Dr. Rebecca Williams-Dinsdale. I'll pop her details in the notes. Thanks very much for listening. Not listening. Thanks very much for listening. And please remember, you are important. Happy Mental Health Awareness Week. Stay healthy and stay happy. See you soon on the Raise podcast. Bye-bye.